Okay, let's set the scene. You've got St. Peter's Basilica, and you hear, Viva il Papa. What's amazing is this is happening before they even officially announced the new pope.
Incredible moment.
Right. And it turns out to be history in the making, the first American pope, Leo XIV. The world is definitely watching. So we've pulled together your sources to really unpack those first global reactions.
Exactly. And we've got quite a mix here. News reports, analysis pieces. They give a really interesting first look at how this is being received, around the globe.
And our goal here specifically for you is to cut through the noise. We want to pull out the really key insights, the interesting bits, maybe even some things that are a bit surprising in how the world's taking this news about Pope Leo XIV.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's jump in. That immediate cheering, Viva il Papa! What does that spontaneous reaction tell us, really?
Well, I think what's really striking, especially considering he's American, is that immediate warmth. The papacy, it's been so European for centuries.
Yeah.
So that instant joy, even before it was official, it might signal a real openness to that shift, maybe a welcoming of a more, let's say, global face for the church leadership.
That's a great point. A broadening identity. Now, another thing jumping out from the sources is Pope Leo XIV's link to Pope Francis. He's actually backed Francis's reforms publicly.
Right.
Things like, the solar panels, the electric cars at the Vatican, getting women involved in the dicastery for bishops.
Those are significant signals.
It really sounds like he's signaling maybe a continuation of that modernizing path.
It certainly seems that way.
Yeah.
And when you add in his specific thanks to Pope Francis, it really does suggest a continuity there, at least in attitude towards reform.
It points towards a direction, maybe?
A direction that seems to embrace engaging with the modern world. And that dicastery for bishops, just for context, is a really key Vatican department handling bishop appointments and related matters. So women there, that's a notable step.
Okay, and that kind of brings us to another really interesting area in the reports. The whole discussion around LGBTQ plus issues, it seems, well, complex.
It is. The sources show some differing views. You have some conservative groups who seem to be anticipating, maybe hoping for, less support than Pope Francis showed.
But then there's the other side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He did support that declaration, allowing blessings for same-sex couples, but, and this is the crucial part the sources highlight with that big caveat.
The caveat being?
That it needs to be interpreted based on local contexts, local cultures. So it's not a simple yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
It adds this layer of nuance. Complexity.
Which explains the mixed reactions, I suppose.
Precisely. It's not a clear reversal, more like an attempt to navigate the very different realities within the global church. That caveat essentially gives local bishops some leeway, meaning you'll see different approaches in different places.
So why is that stance blessings okay, but interpret locally, why is that so important in the big picture, globally?
I think its significance is really about acknowledging just how diverse the Catholic Church is worldwide.
Right, it's not monolithic.
Not at all. And what works or is accepted in, say, Germany, might be seen very differently in parts of Africa or Asia. So this approach, it tries to bridge that gap, even though, as the sources show, it definitely leads to varied, sometimes conflicting responses.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. His background is really interesting. Pope Leo XIV spent quite a bit of time in Peru.
Yes, significant time. Working with marginalized communities, learning the languages, really immersing himself.
That feels like something that could really, shape his outlook as Pope.
Absolutely. That kind of direct, on-the-ground experience, working closely with people facing hardship, understanding different cultural viewpoints firsthand, it tends to build a real depth of empathy.
More than just theory.
Much more. It's lived experience.
Yeah.
And that could definitely influence his priorities, how he approaches global issues. It probably resonates with people who value, inclusivity and understanding diverse perspectives.
Okay, now for something that's definitely got people talking, his political background, the sources bring up his voting record.
Republican primaries, including apparently absentee voting pretty recently in 2024.
And that's causing a stir, understandably. Lots of speculation.
Well, it's natural, isn't it? People try to figure out a new leader, and past actions, including political ones, are part of the picture they look at.
But the key thing is...
The crucial point, and the sources are pretty clear on this, is that what really matters are his actions as Pope. His past voting is, well, it's a factual detail that's out there and drawing attention, but it doesn't dictate his papacy. We have to wait and see.
So just reporting the fact, not reading too much into it yet.
Exactly. It's impartial information from the sources.
But why do you think this specific detail, his political past, is grabbing so much attention? Why the curiosity?
I think in today's world, the intersection of religion and politics is just constantly under a microscope. Any hint about a major religious leader's political leanings, potential leanings, it sparks intense interest.
People trying to gauge his values.
Yeah, trying to understand what might inform his thinking, especially on social issues where, politics and religious teaching often overlap.
Makes sense. Now, for the US specifically, this is just huge. First American Pope.
Undeniably historic.
The sources talk about widespread celebration, congratulations coming in from people like former President Obama, the mayor of Chicago.
Yeah, the significance for the United States is massive. You can see it in the media coverage, both U.S. and international. It's a moment of considerable pride for many American Catholics, and it definitely shifts dynamics within the global church structure.
And looking beyond just the first American aspect, his very first address seems to have landed well.
Yes, the focus on peace.
He talked about Catholics being missionaries, builders of peace, the need for dialogue, building bridges. How's that message playing globally, based on the initial reads?
In the current global atmosphere,
Yeah.
which is often pretty fractured, right? A message that strongly emphasizes peace, dialogue, finding common ground. It's almost always going to be received positively. It taps into a widespread hope, I think.
A yearning for unity.
Exactly. A desire to move past conflict through communication. So that positive early reaction makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so if we try to pull all these threads together, these initial reactions from around the world, what's the overall feeling? What's the vibe?
I'd say it's a real mix. There's definitely optimism, fueled by that initial enthusiasm we talked about and his nods towards continued reform.
But also questions.
And a good deal of curiosity, yes. People are watching closely. His nuanced stances on some things, like the LGBTQ plus blessings, and definitely the interest around his political background. They create a more complex picture.
So not one simple reaction.
Not at all. It's multifaceted. Optimism mixed with anticipation, maybe a bit of wait and see.
All right, so let's quickly recap what we've dug into for you. We saw that immediate positive buzz in St. Peter's, a clear sign he's likely continuing Pope Francis's reform path. Then there's the complexity around LGBTQ plus issue support for blessings, but with that local interpretation angle.
And the potential impact of his deep experience working in Peru with marginalized groups.
Plus that significant curiosity about his past political affiliations in the US, even while acknowledging his papal actions are what truly count.
And of course, the huge historic significance for America itself.
Absolutely. And finally, that early, well-received message focused squarely on peace and dialogue.
That covers the key themes pretty well, I think. That's the initial snapshot from the sources.
So now, turning it over to you listening, you've heard these different threads, the enthusiasm, the reforms, the nuances, the background, the politics, the history, the call for peace. Thinking about all that, what single element do you believe might end up being the most defining aspect of Pope Leo XIV's papacy down the road? What questions are still lingering for you as he starts this journey?